What's up everybody, Jameson Redding here with the Road Trip Angler. And I'm excited today because I'm going to be testing out the Bixpy K1 motor with the power pole mount on the back of this PWR. As we jump into this video, I want to give a big shout out to Bixpy. They were kind enough to share this motor with me so that I could try it out. The Bixpy is a little bit unique and different than any of the other motor options that are on the market for kayaks, and I think it's going to be a very versatile option as well. And as we dig in, I've actually got a couple of different mounting options that I got with the motor kit, including a fin mount that I'm going to put on the back of my NRS Cuda, and the mount that will go on the back of this PWR that will attach to the 4 bolt hole pattern that's on the back of the PWR. So it should be pretty easy to rig that up on this boat. I've also got the adjustable V-arm steering bracket, which is going to allow me to connect my foot control steering that I already have rigged on this PWR 129. Very large and easy to read quick start kit. That's awesome. This little guy is pretty amazing. I mean, it's super lightweight. The decal, this is the floating magnetic kill switch, which is awesome because obviously you don't want your boat to keep going if you happen to fall out of it. Charger, charging cable. This is cool. So this is completely wireless versus some of the other motors that are out there. You actually have to have the throttle wired in. It simply has a Velcro strap here and it looks pretty simple. There's just 3 buttons on it. There is a little lithium battery. So I'll be interested to see if that goes in the actual remote or if it already has one in the remote and that's a spare. The dielectric grease, I should be holding this up. This is the hardware for the motor to be able to mount. This is the steering triangle. We're going to set that aside. Then we're going to get into this box right here. It's cool. They've got QR codes on a lot of different things. They're going to take you to different instructions and the help that you need to be able to install all these things, which is very nice. This is going to be the shaft, little bag of hardware. This is cool though because it's thumb knobs, so this should mount up really easy. All right. This is what came in the kit to mount what they call their power pole adapter kit. Again, that 4-hole bolt pattern right there is going to line up with those bolt holes right there, which should make this pretty easy, especially since I already have all my lines ran from before. I think the next step is going to be to move to the back of the boat and start installing some of this stuff. First thing I'm going to do is I'm going to mount the bracket or the adapter to the 4 bolt hole pattern with the included hardware. So what they've got are these studs, 1/4-20 studs, and also an Allen key that will go in the top of this. Go around and get all those installed. One of the things about this setup with the PWR is that I've already rigged, well, the boat actually comes mostly rigged. I had to add a little bit more length to my steering cables. If you want to see that, you can check out the rigging video of the PWR where I show how I lengthened those steering cables because there is a rudder that comes on this boat and I wanted to change it to the motor, and the rudder is in front of where the motor goes here. So the foot control steering that comes standard on the boat, the cables weren't quite long enough for me, so I had to add a little bit more of that Spectra cord, and I go through all that in the rigging video when I actually mount the Torqeedo back here. However, I am swapping that out to this Bixpy motor, and I'm hoping that I have enough adjustment, because there is some adjustment in the foot pegs, to be able to move those in and out as needed to make the steering work for this motor as well. This part, super easy, because this boat already has this on the back. Because these knobs have a raised side on one side, which you would think you would put down, and a flat side on the other, I'm going to turn that flat side down on the back here because it gives me a little more room to be able to freely spin that knob. And I'm going to work these 2 back ones down pretty much at the same time. Full disclosure, I am not scanning the scanner because, you know, guys, we don't really read instructions. This part's actually pretty self-explanatory. You also have nuts that if you don't want to use the thumb knobs and you want to more permanently mount this, you could put these on. But I like the idea of the thumb knobs because I can take it on and off and move it around. I'm going to put these on this way because I can. Super fast. And there you have it. All right, the next step, I'm going to go ahead and actually mount the motor to the bottom of the bracket here. We have the K1 mounting bolts that came with the adapter. There's a little spacer here that I popped out. So I'm assuming that if you're mounting in different ways, you may need this spacer. So I'm going to hold on to that because that may come in handy later. But as you can see, this just lines up right here. Now, the cable is on the front of the motor, and you've got this slot that is on the shaft here for that cable to rest in. So I want to make sure I have that lined up. You can see how that was pretty easy there. Also, one side here actually has indents for the nuts. So obviously the nuts go on that side, and the flat part on the other side, if you can see that, is where I'm going to put those other screws. There are two different sizes. The longer ones are going to go in the front where it's thicker, and the shorter ones in the back. You can see that. Longer one, shorter one. Now I'm going to try not to lose any of those and flip it over. Speed up the process a little bit. Trusty drill. Just careful not to over tighten. There you have it. The motor is now officially mounted. These aren't very deep, these little indents. So you may want to grab these with a wrench or a pair of pliers and just hold them, because it would be very easy to spin this out. Next step is you've got a couple of zip ties that come in the kit that will help me hold this cable where it needs to be. Now that I have this all bolted up, I'm gonna, before I do the cable management, which is basically zip tied it into this slot, I'm gonna go ahead and hang the motor off the back of the boat. Got a couple of thumb screws that go into here, so it's pretty simple. You're gonna line that up. It's gonna look something like this, and you can put these thumb screws in. And that is what is going to allow it to go up and down, is these pivot, or allow it to pivot up and down so you can raise and lower the motor. Now there is a little clip area there that you have to clip it into. You probably have to pull it pretty hard to get it out of that clip. And ideally this thing is going to clip itself back in once you start motorizing. One thing I worry about is if it comes down and misses, it catches in that groove, but hopefully once this is here and part of the equation and zip tied, that will keep it from doing that, and it'll just always find its home and go back into this spot right here. It comes with these zip ties. Just gonna lock that in, put the zip tie on it, and then I will come back and cut that excess hose. So on the rigging video that I did before, you know that I kind of like a mechanical advantage. Now this motor is super lightweight and nothing in comparison really to the heavier motor, the 1103 from Torqeedo, that I had mounted on the boat in that rigging video. So I don't really know that you need this mechanical advantage. You probably could just come through this eye bolt. Move this camera so you can see what I'm talking about here. Through this little eye bolt here and probably come straight up to here, and that would probably give you plenty of lift. But since I have the cable already kind of set up for that, I'm going to go ahead and hook it up the same way that I did before. All right, now I'm going to walk around and I'm going to see if this works. Seems to work pretty good there. I can bring it all the way down to there. If I wasn't using this pulley, I would be able to get it to go a little bit higher out of the water. Again, I'm not too worried about this where it sits now. All right, the next thing that I'm going to do is actually put the steering on, because that will allow me to be pretty much finished with the installation of this thing, other than the battery getting that charged up and getting on the water. This is the Bixpy adjustable V-arm steering system. As I'm going through this, I wanted to show you real quick. There is an adjustment here and here that would allow me to move this up and down. So I can actually unclamp and move everything up and down in order to have this where I want it if I'm too high. I don't really know if I'm too high yet or not. I don't know if it's going to cavitate. One of the things that I think is really cool about this setup is that I think I'm going to be able to go a lot shallower than some of the bigger motors. It doesn't have that fin to protect the prop because the prop is protected in this little guard here already. So you don't have that fin protruding down, and just the motor itself is a smaller diameter. So I'm curious if I can actually keep this very close to the surface, allowing me to go a little bit shallower than some of the other motors on the market. So for now, I'm not going to adjust that, but I will carry that Allen wrench with me when I go to hit the water, because if I have any cavitation, I'll be able to lower that pretty quickly. This is the steering triangle. I probably should scan just to see how this is supposed to look, but essentially this is going to go on here somehow like so, and then I just need to hook up my steering so that I can make that work, and that'll be that. You have a zip tie, got the adapter or the steering triangle, and I've got the Allen key that came in the box to be able to adjust everything. Right here you have this piece here, so essentially this is going to sit right on top of that. You want to make sure, if you can see this, that this is pretty square with the motor, and mine appears to be pretty close. So, and then this is going to basically mount on right here with a bolt through there and a zip tie, and that's pretty simple. I'll mount this on. I'm going to leave these facing up, put that right here, run this zip tie all the way around. There's a little slot that it goes through. Make sure I've got it turned the right way. Come back around. Then I've got the mounting bolt here. It's going to slide through there. Put the washer and the nut, which is a lock nut. And then I have the Allen key. That's installed. There's also this pin here, hold it up for this camera as well, that will allow it to lock in to place if you need to lock it to stay straight. However, obviously I want it to be able to spin, so I'm not going to do that. That'll allow it to turn with my foot control steering. So the next step is to hook up this foot control steering. I don't really like the way that that's going to hook on, so I'm just going to loop it over there. If you can see that I just have a loop knot and I've got it looped over. Do the other side, take my carabiners off. I've got that looped over now, and I'm going to go test to see if that works. I think I have it pretty much where I want it. Where the cables are coming out of the boat here, this has nothing to do with Bixpy, but because of the orientation of these cables, I'm probably going to get this under here or up here, and eventually that may rub a little bit. So I don't know, I would come up with a way to get this out and give it a little bit more of a guide than to just leave it laying flat on this boat. But for now, we're going to leave it like that and see what happens, because ultimately I just want to see how this motor pushes this big heavy boat. These are the foot control steering. I already had this connected because this boat came rudder ready. Actually had a rudder on it, which was there, and these steering cables that come out actually wrapped that rudder. I disconnected those, add a little bit of Spectra here. You can see the knots where I've tied on the Spectra, and ran it to the steering. I've just looped that over for now. That's going to stay on unless I actually go and physically pull it off. So really simple. If I want to take the motor off, I can either take the entire mount off by taking the 4 thumb screws or thumb knobs off there, or I can undo these 2 thumb knobs on either side, pull the motor off the boat, and just undo all the steering cables. Next, it's to hook up the battery, figure out where that's going to rest in the back of the boat, and test out the throttle, and then charge everything up and hopefully go hit the water. Here's the battery. Very lightweight, very thin. As you can see, it is not big at all. It's not going to take up much space at all. It also has a power button here, which I'm betting is where that key needs to be, which is probably why that lanyard is so long, because you're going to have to run that to your seat area, which, depending on where you have the battery stored, could be quite a distance. So that key is going to go there. That's going to activate the battery, is how you're going to turn that on. You've got 3 different plugs back here. One is to your motor. This one is going to be your charge port. And then you have an auxiliary port as well, which I'm guessing if you want to power. This is the battery connection. I have the battery upside down right now, but just so you can see, I'm going to hook all this up. This looks like a pretty tight, watertight connection here too. So I'm going to pull that off. This thing's going to plug in. It's keyed, so it'd be really hard to get this wrong. Get that out of the way. That is pretty simple, very similar to the way a depth finder plug would go on the back. It's just like a half turn, if that, maybe a quarter turn. Push it all the way in, twist, it's locked. That's in place. I'm gonna figure out a way to maybe bungee this in back here, but that's where that battery is gonna live. We have the kill switch going. Like I said, it's got tons of lanyard, and this is just 550 cord, so you could easily extend that out. Put that on. It actually is indicating that the battery is pretty fully charged. That's a very bright light too, by the way. That light obviously is bright outside, so it's hard to tell, but it is very bright. So I feel like that would be very visible. What I may do is actually put this battery to one side with the kill switch facing me. I've got a little bit of cable, I think I can do that, and then I could easily look back and see that battery. This thing is so lightweight and easy to move. If I was going with a bigger battery, I think I would probably move this around and see if I could get an extension, be able to put the bigger battery right here and move my pack back that way. But this battery is so small and lightweight and could literally go on anything. Kill switch back in there. You guys can see that. Light super bright again. And then this is just lay up here. There, that's done. Time to see how this dude works. All right, so I've got this guy out. This is the remote. Again, it can be worn on your wrist. It can be strapped to the seat. It can be strapped to a paddle. Not really meant to be submerged. It says on the back, it has lithium 3-volt battery. It does tell you how to pair it in case it's not paired, but it is paired right out of the box. So all I had to do was actually put the kill switch on the battery, and now hitting this button and the motor is moving. Let's get a close-up of that. So you've got forward, reverse, and stop, which is nice because if you're going wide open and you just want to completely stop, you just hit that button there and it will completely stop. It goes up in increments. So 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8, 9, 10, 11, 12. So you got 12 ups, and then to go down those 12, you can hit this one at a time, or you can just kill it, which is pretty cool. Reverse, you got 1, 2, 3, and that's it on reverse. If you enjoyed this content, be sure to subscribe. Stay safe out there, wear your life jacket, and as always, thanks for watching.